Well, John, 992 miles, 0.3. Is that close enough to 1,000 miles?
Pretty much.
Okay. Welcome to our 1,000 miles thoughts and things that we've learned and everything else video. Compliments of John, Jesse, and me, and a couple of pieces of paper. Really high tech here. So I've got a whole layout here of things we think we need to fix or change or add, and things that we like about it. So let's start with the things that we like. Rocker panel steps. Jesse's list is mostly from when she was pregnant, but these are the rocker panel steps that we installed. And so basically they make it so that it's 1, 2, 3 steps in order to be able to get in. And they work out really well. I think this was one of my best ideas while building this. We've got sitting height in center. This is for John and Jesse both. The center seat is out of like an ambulance service unit, whatever type idea, and it sits about 2 inches taller than the seats next to it. And I can understand why somebody that's vertically challenged while growing would like it so much. Alright, rear bumper / step. Again, we've got vertically challenged input here. They both really love the off-road bumper assembly, and I honestly actually really love it too, because of the fact that I use this to put one of the ramps, and then I put the other ramp up here, and I can walk the bikes up next to each other and be at the right level for the handlebars. What's up?
Nice and simple.
Yes, it makes a really good step because, yeah, all the steps.
We're not short.
Alright, let me see here. John's input. Door window shade, Dad's is missing. Alright, what's your input here, door window shades?
So, there's a shade piece, but Dad's is missing on his side. But if we come over to my side, this is there.
I'm noticing a short people requirements trend here, because I don't need that on my side. Honestly, mine's actually missing, and this one actually has a pellet bullet hole through it. The rear fender look. John really likes the breakaway cement truck fenders. And I have to say that out of all the features that we came up with for Van-Haulen, that is probably in the top 3 for things that people point out. If I had to do a top 3, the first is always the winged out bumper on the front here. People recognize the bumper, but they don't recognize the wing because I made it. The steps are probably number 3 on the list, and number 2 is definitely those rear fenders. Let's see. The recessed Etrack. A lot of people gave me you know what about doing this, about having it recessed down in. But what I like about it is everything goes through it. Any kind of caca that falls on it, it all knocks through it. I don't have to deal with trying to go and blow it out with air. I don't have to deal with trying to clean out an inaccessible item. I like that that one there is wider with the 2, because I can drop a tire down into it and the lip here ends up catching the tire so it won't go back and forth. So I really like that I made that choice. The funny thing is that choice actually came around because I was short on lumber. It actually was more to do with the fact I needed to come up with a way to stretch what lumber I had on hand. Giant brake reverse light. That. I get comments about this all the time, especially if somebody is behind me. At nighttime, when that thing lights up, the whole bed turns red. It is like the devil himself lit up the rear of this thing. And when you turn the reverse on, that whole thing turns into a giant reverse bar. You can see everything behind you when you rotate and look out the rear window. So that's our list of things that we massively like. Now, let's get into our other list here. Oh, I get this pointed out quite often. This has worked out really well. Yes, you have to pre-plan to have gas in it if you're going to put anything across the top of it. But the tank that's in this van, like, seriously, you can drive 60 miles per hour probably about 7 to 8 hours before you'd ever even remotely burn half a tank. I mean, as long as you got $40 in the tank, you're going to be fine. But it is an irritation to fill it, but this is far enough back that usually most of the things fit down in here and lock it in. We did have the gas fill explode out at one gas station though. I don't really know what was up with that. It like all of a sudden just exploded out the side of it. So now we hold on to it to make sure. All right, 1,000 mile thoughts. Let's start breaking some things down here. Jesse, ceiling mounted fans. Jesse would like on the inside of the cab. So let's be honest, it's a main vehicle with 170,000 miles, I think it is. Yeah, 162,000 miles. The AC is long since dead. We're actually going to do an AC delete on this pretty soon. So 18-wheeler cabs will have fans right here. And you can buy a 12-volt, 3-fan adjustable unit that you can mount to right in that area. So that's what Jesse wants there. Jesse wanted to put a side note about Canopy Strap down. Because we've got these and the shackles, when we go to an event, we bring out one of those 8x8 canopies. And ironically, the legs actually line up perfect with the two ends of the bed. And so we just bungee cord it right directly onto the Etrack. Front tire mud flap. That sucks. It's one of the design flaws that sucks the most, and it's a factory design flaw that became even worse when I put this on here. Because if you hit any mud, the surface of that when you go to step out is glazed and deadly. It's one of the few design quibbles that I made worse when I put this on here. So I've got to put some sort of flap assembly right there. Let's see. Seats suck. Baby seat. So John right now is showing how much he likes the fact that that seat is risered. We've got a set of 60/40 Chevy seats to put in here. These seats suck, but they're great for what they were designed for. These do not tip forward, so everything back here is useless. So from here back, all of that potential storage is useless. Literally the only thing that's in there right now is a giant red trash can right about here behind this wall, so we can throw bottles over the top of my seat. That's it. Because, John, show them what you got to do to get behind there. Yeah, and then you got to do like this contortionist thing. Yeah, so as it is, you can't get behind there without having a John-sized human. Well, we're here, the straps. Let's cover that. The straps live in a tote. The tote usually lives in my way right here. We have a box to put in underneath here. We've been collecting metal to mount it and put it in. I think that what we're going to do is probably cut to port it around the fill. I'm right-handed, and I prefer the box on the driver's side. Yes, I could put it on the passenger side and not have to monkey with going around the fill, but I think it needs to be on this side. I mean, let's be honest, it would be stupid not to put it over here. The winch. Everybody always wants to know, am I going to put a winch on? So Jesse and I have had multiple discussions about this, you know, spitballing the whole winch thing. Jesse's 2 cents are that you have 2 tracks, basically, when you're loading. So she thinks we should put a 2,000-pound winch there and a 2,000-pound winch there. And then that if you need to side load, then what you would do is you would take the opposite winch from your side load, put a buckle there with a pulley, and then go that way. And then that would allow you to side load it. So it would be kind of weird in that if you side loaded, you'd use the opposite winch from what you're side loading from. The other thing that we've debated is that reversible boat winches are a lot more commonplace now. So when we put a headache rack on, which we most definitely need, I mean, without question, we need a headache rack. It's just gotten dumb at this point. So when we put the headache rack on, if we put in provisions to be able to use a boat winch around the bed, I mean, maybe you could have holes or rods that you drop a 2-inch ball into and then you use a boat winch. I don't know. It's complicated. We gotta figure it out. For the people that are gonna notice that you can see the light over there and you can't see the light over there, that's just the frame flex on this thing in general. Although it does need the cab mount underneath this side replaced. But we've noticed that this thing will articulate upwards of about 3 inches worth of difference depending on where you're parked. So, I don't know. I think removing the body allows the frame to flex more than it would have stock, obviously. And that's what we're seeing right here. Okay, let's go get our list that's over here. What do we got left on the list? Let's see. Front tire mud flap, seat, baby seat. We have a weird phenomenon. John, can you open the door on that side? So, here's the quibble. The quibble with putting a baby seat into this thing is that if you put the baby seat in, even as 6 foot, you've got to step up onto this. You've got to reach over the top of the baby seat in order to click in. But because this seat is behind this pillar, you have to reach over from like this angle, and everything about the seat is wrong. So putting a baby seat because of this pillar into here just plain sucks. And if you have the seat as far forward as possible to put the baby seat in, then half the time it hits this front piece. So no matter what, you have to slide it halfway back. It's just one of those catch-22s of screwed. So once Jethro can sit facing forward, I think I will constantly have a baby seat in here for the forward facing. But for now, I just plain try to avoid having to throw Jethro in here because... Oh, and the side note that everybody always says is that if you put the baby seat in here, then why don't you just get in on the other side and then pull the seatbelt across and lock it in? And the problem is the seatbelt in this thing just does not like it when you try to do that. You have to load it from this side. Not sure what's up with the Ford seatbelt and not liking being pulled in this direction, but it hates it. Let me see. John, cup holders. So John's big thing is that we need to come up with cup holders. Probably something that like folds down off the doghouse. Jesse actually found cup holders that are made for sailboats, I believe it is. And so we were thinking that if we put 2 or 3 of those across the backside of the doghouse, that we could have a fold down cup holder section there. And while we're here, one of my notes is phone holder for GPS. There is nothing in this that is cell phone friendly. This is a 2003, so I'm assuming it's one of those pre-cell phones being common enough to give a damn type things. But nothing about this is nice to having a cell phone. If you put your cell phone up there, it shoots down and it gets wedged into the front window. If you put your cell phone on the seat here, when you hit the brakes, it shoots forward and slams onto the floor. If I put it down next to me, it falls down between the 2 seats. I mean, originally this would have had a doghouse that came out into here, and it had a couple of cup holders. And so I think the problem is the center seat, in order to be able to get the doghouse out, has created its own quibbles that I need to come up with a solution for. Probably something embedded in the top of there and coming off to mount the phone to. Let's see. We did the tie-down storage under the bed, headache rack, removable sides. This has been one that we've kicked around several times. So in an ultimate perfect world, if we had, say, an extra $400, they make bolt down kits for these that have a mounting bolt created in them, and they have a lag bolt that goes like that far up and stuff like that. In an ultimate perfect world, I would weld together a set of loading ramps that you would have your headache rack here. You'd have like a triangle piece maybe that came forward a little bit, and then the loading ramp would click into the Etrack on the side, and then that way you would have a full-length set of ramps that would drop off out the side. Because the loading ramps from the Ranger are just, I don't know, maybe about a foot too short, because the angle is slightly more. Even though these 2 beds look like they're the same exact height, they're not. This is about 2 inches taller than the Ranger on the rear, and about 1 inch taller in the front. And so the ramps just kind of don't work. And the other side note that John pointed out last time and I forgot is that these are slippery. And because these are slippery, if you put your ramp up onto here, the tab for the ramp is only about that long. So it doesn't take much for it to scoot back, and then it hits this, and then next thing you know, you're shooting the ramp out from underneath whatever you're driving up on with. So I've never been one to ratchet down ramps, but this has made it so that no ifs, ands, or buts, I have to ratchet the ramps down when I use them if I'm going to drive up onto this thing. Because the rear tire will shoot the ramp out just about every time. Let me see. Blind spot. That is the other quibble on this thing. So the seat sits back in, and we've added in this suction cup mirror right here. And that suction cup mirror, if I step back, is so that I can see a blind spot in line with right about here. But the problem is everything behind there is still blind. And you wouldn't think that, like, I don't know, 10 to 12 inches would really matter that much. But by the time you spin around, let me see if I can stick the camera up in here. If I lean over and I put the camera where my head would be, So if I'm turning around and this is my view, that's my dead zone. Right there. Whereas if I spin around and I look at this, I can see the tree that is hidden when I come around this way. So now you can see that tree that you couldn't see before. So I don't know. I think for now, I think this works. I haven't come up with a better idea just yet. If somebody has a better idea, please feel free to throw it down there. The angle coming out of this, for me, the side mirror, no matter how many times I try to adjust the two of these to work together, I just end up with issues. Maybe I'm just, you know, side mirror stupid, but it is what it is. Otherwise than that, can you think of anything else to add, John?
No.
No? You think that's about it?
Yep.
Alright. Well, there we go. I think that covers everything. Just for the sake of it, we'll double check the list one more time. Headache rack. Oh, crane. John always brings up the crane and the front right tire problem. So, on the Ranger, we always had the crane right there. And the problem is, I don't trust this. This is made out of tractor pallets. It's 2 pallets side by side and then a third pallet cut down in order to be the rear. And I don't trust it to put the crane assembly on it. I think if I build a new one, I will put a crane on. But in the current setup, I don't trust this. I never went through and redid any of the Abu Dhabi welding that is on it. And this is not as thick as I would like for my exterior bars. I mean, just to put it in perspective, on my Ranger over here, these external bars are 1/4 inch thick solid steel, and they run the entire length. There's 2 bars underneath here that are 1/4 inch outside diameter. There's an entire 1/4 inch bar that runs underneath there. And then that is sitting on top of plate underneath there. And the edge of the crane is lining up with the frame rail. Whereas on the van, it would be way out away from the frame rail and I would have to triangulate something. Ah, wah, wah, wah. Ah, wah, wah. What's your input on the van? Actually, I know what your input on the van is. Your input on the van is you refuse to sleep in it for some reason. I don't know what the hell is up with you and the van, but Jethro will go out of his way to refuse, no ifs, ands, or buts, to take a nap. Yeah, you. I called you out on video. Noisy. Last note. Noisy. The van is just plain noisy to ride in, but way less noisy after we fixed the idler pulley that was about to explode in the front of the engine that John thought was my transmission dying. I mean, don't trust John's diagnostics, I'm telling you. But the real reality is there is no sound deadening in this. And I haven't done any because I knew we were going to swap the seats. So once the seats are swapped, we're going to do something for sound deadening big time. Definitely need it. If you open up that window and you open up this window and you are driving 60 miles per hour down the road, the airflow through this is amazing. You will be plenty cool from the airflow going through. The problem is, you better not want to talk to your co-pilot even though he's sitting in the center of the cab. Because you won't be able to. Your entire thing will be yelling at each other and saying, huh. Yeah, little bit. Alright, co-pilot. I have run out of things to babble about. You took pulling teeth in order to babble about something. Because you love the Van-Haulen, don't you?
I love it.
John loves riding in the Van-Haulen and then watching the people as they break their neck in an attempt to have a what the hell was that driving by. Don't you?
Yes.
Yes. John will literally sit in the center of the van and go, ah, poor bugger. All right, John, that's good enough. Say bye-bye.